Have you ever noticed that you're almost never where your body actually is? While someone is speaking to you, your mind is answering a different conversation. While you're working, you're thinking about what's still unfinished. While you're resting, you feel guilty. And so life keeps moving without you. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from too many tasks. It comes from inner fragmentation, from a mind that never lands, from the unconscious habit of escaping the present moment. You're not tired of life, you're tired of not inhabiting it. We live projected into the next moment, waiting for the next achievement, the next sense of stability, the next relief. But what if relief never arrives because you never actually get there? Maybe the problem isn't lack of time. Maybe it's lack of presence. Because the only place where life truly happens is exactly where you avoid remaining. Here. Today we're going to dismantle chronic distraction. We're going to understand why the mind keeps running, and how something as simple as breathing can become the most revolutionary act of your inner maturity. Self-forgetting, how we lose life while living it. There is a kind of fatigue that doesn't come from overwork, but from excessive absence. I notice this when I meet people who have fulfilled all their obligations, achieved goals, paid bills, organized schedules, and still feel a void that's hard to name. It's not failure. It's not lack of productivity. It's something subtler, the feeling of not having truly been present in one's own life. As if the days happened but we weren't there. When I began moving through the teachings of the Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, I didn't encounter a sophisticated technique or a mystical promise. I encountered something disarmingly simple. The realization that we are almost always absent from the moment we're living. And this absence has become so normal that we no longer notice it. We call it routine. We call it adulthood. We call it responsibility. But there is a profound difference between responsibility and automatism. Responsibility arises from awareness. Automatism arises from inner fragmentation. And most of us move through our days fragmented. Body in one place, mind in another, emotion somewhere else entirely. We're at work thinking about home. We're at home thinking about work. We're in conversation while our mind rehearses responses, calculates outcomes, or replays past scenes. We live in psychological time, not real time. Psychological time is the continuous narrative the mind constructs. What I should have done, what I need to do, what might go wrong, what's still missing. It generates urgency, anxiety, anticipation. Real time, on the other hand, is just this instant. The breath entering, the sound echoing, the sensation of the floor beneath your feet. The tension between these two times defines the quality of our inner experience. And almost always, unconsciously, we choose the one that distances us from life. There is something unsettling about this. We can spend years living without truly experiencing life. We can achieve financial stability, social recognition, technical efficiency, and still not feel whole. Because wholeness does not arise from the accumulation of achievements. It arises from the quality of presence. And presence is not an abstract philosophical concept. It is a bodily experience. It is feeling the moment as it unfolds. Think about something simple. How many times have you had a cup of coffee without really tasting it? How many meals have you eaten while scrolling on your phone? How many conversations have you half heard? This is not a moral judgment. It's an existential observation. We've learned how to execute tasks but not how to inhabit them. And this creates a silent erosion of consciousness. This erosion doesn't hurt immediately. It shows up as subtle restlessness, as the feeling that something's missing, even when everything appears in order. Many call this emptiness. But maybe it's not emptiness. Maybe it's excess distraction. Excess escape from the present. Excess mind and absence of presence. There is also an implicit fear in being fully here. When we stop, when we become quiet, when we simply breathe, something emerges. It might be repressed exhaustion, unprocessed sadness, accumulated anxiety. So we prefer to keep the mind busy. Self-forgetting becomes a mechanism of self-protection. If I don't stop, I don't have to feel. Yet this strategy carries a high cost. In avoiding the discomfort of now, we also lose the beauty of now. We lose contact with our own body. We lose perception of small joys. We lose intimacy with ourselves. And without inner intimacy, any external achievement feels insufficient. I often say that the greatest risk of modern life is not failure, it's sleepwalking. Living in a way that is functional, efficient, socially acceptable, and internally distant. Mindfulness, then, does not emerge as a productivity method, but as a call to awakening. An awakening that doesn't require leaving the world, but leaving unconsciousness within the world. And here something fundamental begins. We're not talking about controlling thoughts. We're not talking about achieving a permanent state of serenity. We're talking about noticing. Noticing when the mind runs away. Noticing when the body is tense. Noticing when we are reacting automatically. That noticing itself is already a rupture in automatism. Awareness doesn't immediately eliminate the habit, but it interrupts its invisibility. And when something is no longer invisible, it no longer fully governs your life. This is how inner integration begins, not with dramatic decisions but with micro-returns to the present. You might be listening to this and thinking, I don't have time for this kind of practice. I understand that feeling. It's common. But notice the irony. We don't have time to be in the only place where time truly exists, now. We spend our lives chasing future minutes while wasting real ones. In this context, mindfulness is not an exotic Eastern technique disconnected from Western reality. It is a direct response to contemporary fragmentation. It invites us to reclaim the experience of our own life before it passes like a movie watched halfway. What if the first step isn't changing anything externally? What if the first step is simply recognizing that we are absent? That recognition can be uncomfortable. It may reveal how much we've lived on autopilot, but it also inaugurates something powerful, the possibility of choice. In the next movement of this journey, I want to descend even further into the ordinary. I want to talk about something seemingly trivial, washing dishes, walking, taking a shower, because perhaps it's precisely there, where we least expect it, that the field of inner initiation begins to reveal itself. Washing the dishes or escaping yourself. There's a simple scene proposed in the Miracle of Mindfulness that always unsettles me. Washing the dishes just to wash the dishes. Not to get it over with, not so you can do something else afterward. Not to check off an obligation. Just washing the dishes. When I truly paused to feel the weight of that sentence, I realized how deeply it confronts the entire structure of our modern mind. We rarely do anything just to do it. Almost everything is a means to something else. We work to earn money. We eat to get back to work. We rest to be more productive later. Even leisure becomes a recovery strategy. In this process, the present moment stops being an end in itself. It becomes a bridge. And to live as a bridge is to never arrive. Standing before a sink full of dishes, I can notice two clear inner movements. The first is impatience. The mind is already on the couch, on the phone, at the next appointment. The second is resistance. I should be doing something more important. That more important is rarely questioned. It simply imposes itself as truth. But who determines that this moment is inferior to the next? This logic reveals something profound about our relationship with time and identity. We assign value to what appears productive, visible, measurable. Washing dishes doesn't build status. It doesn't generate recognition. It doesn't feed the narrative of success. So the mind treats it as an obstacle. And everything treated as an obstacle generates tension. Notice how this extends beyond the kitchen. We're in a meeting wanting it to end. We're in traffic wishing we'd arrive. We're on Sunday already anticipating Monday. We live in permanent psychological displacement. Concrete life happens here, but our attention is always projected a few minutes ahead. This habit creates a subtle pattern of escape. Not a dramatic escape like abandoning responsibilities. A microscopic, constant escape from the present instant. And every micro-escape reinforces the belief that now is never enough. That something better is always slightly ahead. This mechanism feeds anxiety, dissatisfaction, and chronic incompleteness. When Thich Nhat Hanh speaks about washing dishes with full attention, he isn't teaching a domestic technique. He is revealing an ontological rupture. If I can be whole while washing dishes, I break the tyranny of later. I declare that this moment is worthy of presence. And that declaration changes the structure of consciousness. But how do we apply this concretely? It's not enough to mentally repeat, I'll be present. The mind will keep running. The invitation is more bodily. Feel the water touching your skin. Notice the temperature. Hear the sound of utensils touching. Sense the breath as the body leans slightly forward. It's not about forcing concentration, but gently returning whenever you notice the mind has wandered. At first, it may feel artificial, too slow. Impatience will arise naturally. And here is an important point. We don't fight impatience. We observe it. We notice how it manifests in the body, maybe tension in the shoulders, maybe accelerated breathing. By bringing light to this movement, something begins to shift. Daily practice reveals something disconcerting. The problem was never the task. The problem was our mental relationship to it. The suffering isn't in washing dishes. It's in resisting washing dishes. It's in the internal narrative that says this moment should be different from what it is. When that narrative dissolves, the task loses its psychological weight. This doesn't mean romanticizing everything. It doesn't mean all activities become pleasurable. It means the experience becomes real. And when something is real, it ceases to be oppressive. Oppression arises from inner division. One part of me acts, another rejects. Mindfulness integrates these parts. There is also a quiet ethical dimension here. When I am fully present in a simple task, I am training my capacity to be present in complex situations. If I cannot hear the sound of running water, how will I deeply hear someone suffering in front of me? The quality of attention in the small shapes the quality of presence in the great. Many of us seek extraordinary experiences to feel fulfilled. Travel, achievements, radical changes. But perhaps the extraordinary is blocked because we ignore the ordinary. The everyday is not the enemy of transcendence. It is the field where transcendence becomes embodied. Try something simple today. Choose an unavoidable activity: showering, making coffee, walking to your car. For a few minutes, do only that. When the mind runs, and it will, return without judgment. Don't turn this into another goal to accomplish. Turn it into an encounter. An encounter between you and the moment. Gradually, you begin to realize that life is not happening somewhere else. It won't begin when your schedule is empty, when problems are solved, or when stability is perfect. It's happening while you hear these words, while you breathe, while you feel the weight of your body in the chair. And something subtle begins to emerge, a kind of dignity of the instant. Each moment stops being a step and becomes a home. This shift is silent but revolutionary, because if now is home, there is nowhere to escape. Yet as we begin to remain, we notice something even more fundamental. The breath has always been there, like an invisible anchor, waiting to be noticed. Perhaps it's time to look directly at it. Breathing as an ontological portal. If I had to choose a single point of return throughout life, something always available regardless of circumstances, I would choose the breath. Not because it is mystical, not because it is exotic, but because it is inevitable. It is happening now, and it is happening in you. Before any philosophy, before any technique, there is this simple movement. Air enters, air leaves. In the Miracle of Mindfulness, breathing is not presented as a mechanical exercise, but as a bridge between body and awareness. When I inhale knowing that I am inhaling, something shifts qualitatively. The breath stops being an automatic process and becomes a lived experience. In that instant, I stop being a spectator of my own life and become a participant. The word portal may sound grand, but look honestly, where is your mind right now? If you do not gently direct attention, it disperses. It jumps to memories, obligations, worries. The breath is the fixed point that prevents total dispersion. It is the thread stitching awareness to the present. There is a difference between breathing and knowing you are breathing. The first is biological. The second is ontological. When there is awareness of breathing, there is awareness of being alive. And that simple awareness begins to reorganize inner experience. Not because it eliminates thoughts, but because it creates an axis. I like to notice how breathing reveals my emotional state without analysis. If I'm anxious, it shortens. If I'm irritated, it becomes shallow. If I'm calm, it naturally deepens. The breath is a direct mirror of the mind. And at the same time, it is a doorway to transforming it. Transformation here does not mean force. It does not mean rigid control of rhythm. It means accompaniment. Inhale and recognize, I am inhaling. Exhale and recognize, I am exhaling. This simplicity disarms mental compulsion. It is as if we tell the body, I am here with you. Many of us live disconnected from our own bodies. We inhabit mental narratives but not skin, muscles, heartbeat. The breath reconnects us to this concrete dimension. When I feel air entering through the nostrils, descending into the chest, expanding the abdomen, I return to the physicality of existence. And existence is not abstract. It is felt. There is something profoundly humble about this. It is not a spectacular practice. It earns no applause. It produces no immediately visible results. And precisely for that reason, it is transformative. Because it shifts the center of experience from the external to the internal. Validation no longer depends solely on others' gaze, but on the quality of presence. I often suggest something very simple. Choose 3 fixed moments in the day to remember your breath. Upon waking. Before responding to an important message. Before sleeping. Not as rigid ritual but as a gesture of return. 3 conscious breaths already create a fissure in automatism. During a difficult conversation, for example, try discreetly feeling your own breath while listening. This prevents you from being completely captured by reactivity. The breath functions as an anchor. You continue listening, continue feeling, but you are not entirely swept away by the emotional wave. There is also a deeper existential dimension here. The breath reminds us of impermanence. Each inhalation is unique. Each exhalation will never repeat exactly the same way. By following this flow, we begin to perceive the transient nature of everything: thoughts, emotions, situations. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is as solid as we imagine. This realization does not generate despair. It generates lightness. If everything is transient, discomfort is transient too. Anxiety that feels eternal is, in fact, moving. The breath teaches this without discourse. It demonstrates. In many moments of life, we search for complex solutions to problems that are essentially disconnections from presence. We are saturated with information but starving for awareness. The breath is the antidote to that saturation. It returns us to direct experience. And perhaps something even deeper happens. When I follow the breath, I interrupt the incessant narrative about who I am. For a few seconds, I am not my job title, nor my past mistakes, nor my future expectations. I am simply someone breathing. And this simplicity temporarily dissolves the rigidity of identity. This dissolution is not loss. It is freedom. Because if I am not only the story I tell about myself, then there is space for transformation. Space for inner maturity. Space to choose different responses. Yet as breathing becomes conscious, many notice something uncomfortable. The body carries accumulated tension. Rigid shoulders. Clenched jaw. Compressed chest. The breath reveals these hidden layers. And this leads us into even more delicate territory, the body as a field of reconciliation. In the next movement, I want to speak about something seemingly simple, yet profoundly revolutionary: the inner smile. Not the social smile, but the one that arises when we make peace with our own body. The inner smile, the silent revolution of the conscious body. When I began practicing conscious breathing more consistently, something unexpected happened. I realized how contracted my body was. Not only in moments of obvious stress but almost all the time. Slightly raised shoulders. Tight jaw. Furrowed brow without clear reason. It was as if I were permanently preparing for a danger that never materialized. In the Miracle of Mindfulness, there is a simple and deeply symbolic invitation to smile. Not as social expression, not as a mask of politeness, but as an inner gesture. A gentle smile while breathing. A smile directed toward one's own body. At first glance, this may seem naive, but when practiced with awareness, it reveals a revolutionary dimension. The body stores the history of the mind. Every undigested worry finds shelter in the muscles. Every repressed fear leaves a trace in posture. Constant hurry creates rigidity. We learn to analyze thoughts, but rarely to listen to the body as the living text of our emotional biography. The inner smile is a gesture of reconciliation. When I smile softly while inhaling and exhaling, something in the nervous system reorganizes. This is not mysticism. It is physiology and awareness working together. The body understands it is not under immediate threat. Tension begins to dissolve. And with it, part of the urgency narrative we carry dissolves too. But there is something deeper. Many of us maintain a utilitarian relationship with our own body. It is a work instrument, a means of transportation, a performance tool. We remember it only when it hurts. We pay attention only when it fails. The inner smile symbolically says, I recognize you. I'm here with you. Try it now as you read. Inhale gently. As you exhale, allow a slight smile to emerge, almost imperceptible. Don't force it, just allow. Notice how the face softens, how the shoulders may relax slightly, how the breath gains space. This small gesture alters the quality of experience. We underestimate the power of conscious microgestures. We expect grand transformations, dramatic events, decisive turning points. But inner maturity is built through almost invisible movements. An inner smile repeated throughout the day creates a different inner atmosphere. This does not mean denying pain. It does not mean forcing positivity. It means creating space. The smile does not eliminate suffering, but it prevents it from becoming a fixed identity. It reminds the body that even amid difficulty, openness is possible. There is also an ethical and relational dimension here. A relaxed body listens better. A less tense body reacts less impulsively. When we are rigid, our responses are harsh. When softened, our responses gain flexibility. The inner smile therefore spills into the way we inhabit the world. How many times have you arrived home after an intense day and realized your body was still in defense mode? Clenched jaw, short breath, scattered gaze. If in that moment you pause for 1 minute, breathe and smile gently, something shifts. Home stops being an extension of stress and becomes a space of presence. This practice also reveals something uncomfortable: how accustomed we've become to tension as the norm. Many people only realize they were tense when they begin to relax. The contrast exposes the habit. And exposing the habit is the first step toward freedom. There is a quiet courage in softening. We live in a culture that values hardness, relentless productivity, constant resistance. Relaxing can feel like weakness. In truth, it requires awareness. It is easier to remain contracted than to allow oneself to feel. The inner smile is an act of trust in life. Trust that in this instant, it is possible to lower defenses. Trust that we do not need to be permanently braced for the worst. This trust does not arise from external guarantees. It arises from the direct experience of being here, breathing. As breathing and smiling integrate, we begin to see that the body is not an obstacle to spirituality, it is the field where it unfolds. There is no awakening that ignores flesh, bones, heartbeat. Awareness does not float above the body, it incarnates within it. And as the body relaxes, we perceive something even deeper. Much of our anxiety is tied to a distorted perception of time. We rush because we believe time is chasing us. We live under the sensation that we are late for something invisible. Perhaps it is time to question this relationship with time. Perhaps the enemy was never the clock, but the internal narrative we built around it. Time is not against you. There is a silent belief governing modern life, the idea that we are always behind. Behind our goals, expectations, comparisons, who we should have become by now. This feeling creates constant tension, as if time were an invisible adversary, always a few steps ahead, always demanding more. Moving through the miracle of mindfulness, I realized mindfulness is not merely a focused practice, but a radical rupture with this narrative of temporal scarcity. It is not the clock that oppresses us. It is our interpretation of it. Chronological time flows neutrally. Suffering arises from psychological time, the one constructed by the mind. Psychological time is made of projections and regrets. It feeds on when I achieve, when I fix, when I am recognized. It also replays I should have, I missed that chance, I failed there. In this movement, the present becomes a narrow passage between past and future, never a place of rest. But notice something essential: every concrete experience happens now. The anxiety you feel is felt now. The memory that arises appears now. The fear of the future manifests now. Even psychological time exists only as present thought. When this is deeply lived, it alters how we relate to life. We have been conditioned to treat the present as insufficient. It is only valuable if it leads to something greater. We work for the future. We sacrifice now for later promise. This logic can seem rational, even necessary in some contexts. The problem arises when it becomes total, when we never allow ourselves to inhabit the instant. How many times have you said, "When I finish this, I'll rest"? And when you finish, another task appears. Then another. Then another. Rest is never now. Peace is never now. Satisfaction is postponed. This constant postponement creates a sense of suspended life. Mindfulness introduces a disconcerting question. What if this moment is not a means but an end in itself? What if life is not waiting for a future condition to begin? This question may provoke resistance, because it dismantles the narrative sustaining our hurry. This does not mean abandoning goals or planning. It does not mean living irresponsibly. It means shifting the center of gravity. Planning can happen with presence. Working can happen with presence. The problem is not future-oriented action. It is absence in the present while acting. Here is a simple exercise. During an ordinary day, notice how many times you think, "I need to get this done quickly." Just notice. Do not criticize yourself. Observe the internal impulse to accelerate. Feel how it manifests in the body, perhaps as short breath, perhaps as chest tension. Upon noticing, take one conscious breath. Just one. That micro-gesture interrupts autopilot. Over time, something curious happens. You realize urgency is not constant. It arises like a wave, and like every wave it passes. But without awareness, we assume it is permanent. Attention reveals its transient nature. Behind hurry there is often a deeper fear, the fear of not being enough. We run to prove worth. We run to meet external standards. We run because we believe that if we stop, we lose relevance. Time becomes a courtroom. Each passing year feels like judgment. But when I breathe consciously and smile inwardly, I perceive something simple. In this exact instant, I am alive. And being alive does not require additional proof. It does not require performance. There is intrinsic dignity in existence that does not depend on comparison. This does not eliminate healthy ambition. It clarifies it. When I am not pushed by fear of delay, I can choose goals that truly make sense to me. I can act from clarity, not compulsion. There is also a profound spiritual dimension here. When we fully inhabit the present, we realize it is vast. It is not a tiny point between past and future. It is an open field. The past appears as present memory, the future as present imagination. Everything converges here. This perception dissolves the feeling of being chased. Time stops being an enemy and becomes flow. And when I align with flow, action becomes more organic. I do what needs to be done, but without the internal violence of permanent urgency. You may be wondering, but what about responsibilities? Deadlines? They remain. The difference is internal. You can meet a deadline with tension and fragmentation, or with presence and conscious breathing. Externally, the action may look identical. Internally, the experience is radically different. By dismantling the tyranny of psychological time, we begin to touch an even deeper illusion, the idea that we are isolated entities competing against the world and the clock. Perhaps suffering is not only in hurry, but in the belief of separation that sustains it. And that belief is exactly where we need to look now. Interbeing, the illusion of the separate self. There is a word taught by Thich Nhat Hanh that, when understood not merely intellectually but existentially, silently transforms perception. Interbeing. It is not a complex technical term. It points to something simple and radical. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is deeply interconnected. When I look at a sheet of paper, I can see it merely as an object. But if I look carefully, I see the cloud that brought rain, the sun that nourished the tree, the logger who cut the wood, the food that sustained the logger, the time that allowed growth. The sheet of paper does not simply exist. It inters with everything that made it possible. This is not mere poetry. It dismantles the rigid structure of this separate self. We grow up believing we are autonomous entities, sealed off, competing for space, recognition, security. This belief feeds fear, comparison, loneliness. But when I begin to perceive the invisible web sustaining me, something relaxes within. I'm not alone in breathing. The air entering me was exhaled by trees. The food nourishing me came from the earth and from countless hands. Even my thoughts carry cultural, familial, historical influences. This self I defend so rigidly is actually a convergence point of multiple conditions. In the Miracle of Mindfulness, this vision is not presented as metaphysical theory, but as awareness practice. When I walk attentively, I can recognize that each step touches the earth sustaining me. When I drink water, I can recognize the distant rain that made that gesture possible. This constant remembrance dissolves the illusion of separation. Why is this existentially relevant? Because much of our suffering arises from the sense of isolation. We feel alone in our failures, insecurities, pain. We believe we must uphold a solid, self-sufficient, impenetrable identity. That posture generates rigidity and constant fear of threat. When I understand Interbeing, I see that my pain is not only mine. It is connected to stories, collective traumas, social conditioning. This does not turn me into a victim. It expands understanding. I stop attacking myself internally and begin seeing causes and conditions with greater compassion. This shift also alters how I see others. If I perceive myself as isolated, the other becomes competitor, threat, or instrument. If I perceive interconnection, the other becomes an extension of the same reality that constitutes me. This does not eliminate conflict, but it changes the quality of response. How many arguments arise from automatic defense of me? I'm right. I was offended. I need to win. Identity rigidity creates constant friction. When mindfulness enters these reactions, I begin to notice I am often defending a narrative, not an absolute truth. Interbeing does not erase individuality. It reveals that individuality is not isolation. I still have preferences, boundaries, opinions, but I recognize they emerge from a web of influences. Awareness softens the ego without annihilating it. There is also a very practical dimension here. When in conflict, ask internally, what conditions led this person to act this way? What invisible histories lie behind this behavior? This question does not justify harmful actions, but expands the field of understanding. Mindfulness applied to relationships reveals that we are continuously co-creating experiences. The way I speak influences the other's response. My tone shapes the environment's energy. The quality of my presence affects the quality of the encounter. Nothing happens in isolation. Perhaps the most liberating insight is this. If everything is interdependent, transformation is possible. If I am the result of conditions, then by modifying certain conditions, such as the quality of my attention, breath, words, I participate in transforming the entire network. This dissolves helplessness. I do not control the world, but I participate in it. Each conscious gesture subtly alters the relational fabric. Each moment of presence is an invisible contribution to a larger field. Yet as we begin perceiving interconnection, a delicate question arises. What about pain? If everything is connected, suffering is too. How can we remain present before pain, ours and the world's, without being crushed by it? Here is where mindfulness reveals even deeper courage. Pain is not the enemy. There is an almost automatic tendency within us to avoid pain at any cost. Not only physical pain, but especially emotional pain, frustration, rejection, fear, shame, sadness. We were conditioned to believe that discomfort signals failure, that maturity equals control, that spirituality equals constant serenity. But moving deeply through the teachings of the Miracle of Mindfulness, something begins to invert within me. Pain ceases to be an enemy and becomes a messenger. Not in a romanticized glorification of suffering, but in lucid recognition that it carries information. When I resist pain, I solidify it. When I observe it with presence, I understand it. The difference may seem subtle, but it is structural. Resistance creates contraction. Observation creates space. And space is precisely what is lacking when we are dominated by intense emotions. Imagine a common situation. You receive unexpected criticism. The body reacts immediately, heat in the face, tightness in the chest, altered breath. Before thought, reaction has begun. If you fully identify with the emotion, it becomes identity. I was attacked. I must defend myself. The response tends to be impulsive. Now imagine another possibility. The criticism arrives. The body reacts, but you take one conscious breath. You notice the tightness in the chest, the heat in the face. You do not deny. You do not repress. You simply acknowledge, there is pain here. This recognition interrupts total fusion with the emotion. This practice requires courage. Remaining with pain, even briefly, can be uncomfortable. The mind will seek distraction. It will search for blame. It will construct narratives to escape vulnerability. But if you sustain presence, something begins to transform. Pain, when observed, reveals layers. Often behind irritation lies fear. Behind anger lies inadequacy. Behind sadness lies attachment. Mindfulness does not instantly eliminate these layers, but it illuminates them. And what is illuminated no longer acts entirely in the shadows. There is a powerful metaphor offered by Thich Nhat Hanh. When a baby cries, we hold it tenderly. We do not shout at it to stop. We do not ignore it. Inner pain can be treated the same way. Instead of fighting it, we can hold it. To hold is not to drown, not to indulge victimhood. It is to recognize the humanity of one's own experience. When I say internally, I see you, pain. I am here, something softens. The breath becomes an ally. The inner smile, even faint, creates space. In daily life, this can be applied concretely. When noticing anxiety before a presentation, instead of repeating, I can't feel this, try recognizing, anxiety is present. Feel where it lives in the body. Breathe with it for a few cycles. Often, intensity decreases simply because it is no longer being fought. Constant resistance to pain creates a second suffering, the suffering of fighting what is already happening. Mindfulness dissolves this second suffering. The emotion may remain for a while, but without the added layer of inner war. There is also a collective dimension. We live in a culture that encourages permanent distraction precisely to avoid discomfort. We scroll endlessly, consume content, seek constant stimulation. Not because we are weak, but because we were never taught to stay. Learning to stay with one's own pain is an act of spiritual maturity. It is not pleasant, but it is liberating. Because when you realize you can remain present even in discomfort, inner confidence arises. You discover you are not as fragile as you imagined. Paradoxically, by embracing your own pain, you become more capable of embracing others. Those who flee their own vulnerability tend to avoid vulnerability in others. Those who have learned to sit with their own sadness can deeply listen to someone suffering. There is, however, a crucial nuance. Remaining with pain does not mean remaining indefinitely in abusive environments or relationships. Mindfulness increases discernment. By fully feeling discomfort, you also recognize when it is time to act, set boundaries, step away. Presence is not passivity. Over time, you begin to see emotions as clouds. They form, shift shape, and dissipate. When you believe they are permanent, despair arises. When you observe them as transient phenomena, something within remains stable. That stability is not indifference. It is conscious space. It is knowing that there is something in you capable of observing the storm without being entirely swept away by it. And when you touch that stability, another dimension appears: silence. Because when pain is held and the mind is less agitated, a space emerges that many mistake for emptiness. But perhaps that emptiness is not a threat. Perhaps it is fertile ground. Making peace with silence. When the mind slows down a little, when the breath becomes more conscious, and when we begin to embrace pain instead of fighting it, something inevitably arises: silence. And it is curious to notice how silence, something that should feel like rest, is often interpreted as a threat. We live surrounded by noise, external sounds, notifications, constant conversations, visual stimuli, but the most intense noise is usually internal. Continuous thoughts, repetitive analysis, simulations of the future, revisions of the past. When this flow decreases, even for a few seconds, many people feel uneasy, as if something were missing. In the Miracle of Mindfulness, the practice of attention does not lead us to silence as an escape from the world, but as a reunion with the ground of experience. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the space where life can be perceived without the constant interference of mental narrative. But why do we fear this space? Because there is no distraction there. And without distraction we meet ourselves. We encounter our unanswered questions, our subtle fears, our structural insecurities. Constant noise works like anesthesia. Silence removes the anesthesia. I have observed this in simple moments, turning off the phone and sitting for a few minutes doing nothing. At first, the impulse arises to grab the device again. The mind searches for stimulation. There is almost a physical discomfort. If we remain, however, that discomfort begins to transform. Silence stops feeling empty and becomes dense presence. There is an essential difference between loneliness and conscious solitude. Loneliness is feeling disconnected. Solitude is being with yourself without feeling incomplete. Mindfulness cultivates this second dimension. When I can remain in silence without fleeing, I begin to build inner intimacy. This intimacy is rare. Many people know the world's opinions deeply, but know very little about their own internal movements. Silence reveals patterns, how we react mentally, which thoughts repeat themselves, which fears arise automatically. It becomes a mirror. And here is an important point. Silence does not need to be absolute externally. It can begin as internal silence in the midst of activity. You can be in a busy environment and still create a small space of observation within yourself. That space is not isolation, it is clarity. There is also a creative dimension to silence. Deep ideas rarely emerge in agitation. Subtle intuitions need space to manifest. When we are saturated with stimuli, sensitivity decreases. Silence refines perception. Many people say they cannot meditate because the mind does not stop. But the goal is not to make the mind stop. It is to perceive its movement. Silence is not the absence of thought. It is the absence of automatic identification with each thought. That difference changes everything. I usually suggest a simple exercise. Set aside 5 minutes of your day to sit without an objective. Not to solve problems. Not to plan. Just to be. Observe the breath. Notice the sounds around you without labeling them. When thoughts arise, gently acknowledge them and return to the body. At first, it may seem unproductive. But over time, you will notice that those minutes influence the quality of the rest of the day. Responses become less reactive. Listening becomes deeper. Perception expands. Silence also reveals something unsettling. We are not only the flow of thoughts. There is a dimension that observes. A consciousness that perceives the mind functioning. When we touch that dimension even briefly, we experience a different kind of stability, not based on control but on presence. This stability is not cold. It is alive. It allows us to feel joy without excessive attachment and to feel sadness without absolute despair. Silence is the field where this maturity begins to bloom. However, silence is not only an individual practice. It transforms the way we relate. Because when we learn to listen to our own interior, we also learn to listen to others deeply. And perhaps it is precisely here that mindfulness reveals its most loving dimension. Mindfulness as an act of love. When we speak about mindfulness, it is common to think of breathing, silence, posture, bodily awareness. But there is an even deeper dimension that runs through all these practices. The quality of our presence before another human being. And it is here that mindfulness ceases to be merely an inner discipline and reveals itself as an act of love. In the Miracle of Mindfulness, the practice does not end with the individual. It overflows into the way we speak, listen, and walk alongside someone. To love, in this context, is not merely to feel affection. It is to offer real presence. And real presence is increasingly rare. How many times have you spoken with someone who seemed physically there but not emotionally? The distracted gaze, the mind elsewhere, the automatic response. We do this often, sometimes without realizing it. We stand beside those we love, but our attention is fragmented. Fragmented attention is a subtle form of absence. And repeated absence generates distance. Not because feeling is lacking, but because presence is lacking. Human connection is not sustained only by words or grand gestures. It is built in micro moments of genuine listening. Deep listening requires inner silence. It requires suspending the need to respond immediately. It requires opening space so that the other can express themselves without being interrupted by our internal narrative. This is concrete spiritual practice. It is not in temples, it is in living room conversations. When I breathe consciously while someone is speaking, something shifts. I stop listening merely to react and begin listening to understand. This does not mean agreeing with everything. It means allowing the other person's experience to exist before me without immediately filtering it through the defense of myself. There is courage in this, because listening deeply can touch our own wounds. It can confront our beliefs. It can require us to recognize mistakes. But it is precisely this vulnerability that makes human encounters transformative. Mindfulness also invites us to observe how we speak. How many words are spoken impulsively? How many reactions are automatic? When there is awareness, choice arises. I can choose a response that is clearer, kinder, more truthful. Not out of moral obligation, but because I perceive the consequences of unconsciousness. There is a phrase often associated with Thich Nhat Hanh that resonates deeply. To understand is to love. When I understand the conditions that shape someone, their pain, fears, limitations, rigidity softens. Criticism gives way to compassion. This does not mean tolerating abuse or erasing boundaries. On the contrary, mindfulness makes boundaries more lucid. When I am present, I clearly perceive when something injures my integrity. I can communicate that firmly, without hatred. Presence reduces internal violence, even when the situation requires positioning. There is also the dimension of self-love. Often we offer others a patience we deny ourselves. We speak to ourselves in a harsh, demanding, merciless tone. Mindfulness applied inwardly softens this dialogue. When I make a mistake, I can acknowledge it without destroying myself. When I fail, I can learn without condemning myself. This gesture of inner kindness alters the quality of external relationships. Those who are at war with themselves tend to project that war onto the world. Those who begin to reconcile internally create safer environments around them. Try something concrete today. In an important conversation, breathe consciously before responding. Make a real pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Allow your response to arise from a wider space, not merely from immediate impulse. Notice the difference in the quality of the interaction. Mindfulness as an act of love also manifests in everyday details. Looking into someone's eyes, turning off the phone while they speak, walking beside someone without excessive hurry. Small gestures that communicate, "I am here with you." Over time, we begin to perceive that life is essentially relational. Even when we are alone, we carry internal voices formed by past encounters. By transforming the quality of presence, we also transform the quality of those voices. And perhaps here lies the silent synthesis of everything we have traversed so far. Conscious breathing, inner smiling, reconciliation with time, embracing pain, intimacy with silence. All of this prepares the ground for loving more lucidly. But how do these teachings translate into the concrete life of an ordinary person, navigating pressures, conflicts, responsibilities? How can mindfulness truly alter someone's psychological destiny in modern daily life? That is what I want to reveal now through a story. Miguel's story, when presence saved an ordinary man from himself. I want to step out of the realm of ideas and into concrete life. Because everything we have explored so far, breath, time, pain, silence, interconnection, has real value only if it can be lived amid daily pressures. Miguel was not a monk. He was not seeking enlightenment. He had no particular interest in spirituality. He was an ordinary man with a full schedule, family responsibilities, professional goals, and the constant feeling of being late for something invisible. He woke up already checking his phone. Coffee standing up. Tense traffic. Back-to-back meetings. Accumulated messages. At night, exhausted, he felt he had done a lot and lived very little. There was a silent restlessness he could not name. Nothing was wrong, yet something was disconnected. The breaking point was not dramatic. There was no collapse. It was subtler. During a conversation with his wife, she calmly said, "You're here, but you're not." The sentence echoed uncomfortably. Miguel realized his presence was fragmented. He answered but did not listen. He embraced but thought about the next day. Out of curiosity, not conviction, he began reading The Miracle of Mindfulness. The idea of breathing consciously seemed too simple for someone accustomed to solving complex problems. Yet something in that simplicity intrigued him. The next morning, before grabbing his phone, he decided to do something different. He sat on the edge of the bed. Inhaled. Exhaled. Just 3 times. In the first seconds, the mind protested, "You're going to be late." Even so, he remained. He noticed the weight of his body, the distant sound of the street, his own breathing. Something minimal shifted. It was not ecstasy. It was gentle clarity. In traffic, when impatience began to arise, he noticed his grip tightening on the steering wheel. The tension in his jaw. Instead of cursing or accelerating impulsively, he breathed consciously. The line of cars did not disappear. But the internal violence diminished. For the first time in a long time, he was not fighting the moment. At work, he faced harsh criticism from a colleague. The automatic reaction was defensive. His chest tightened. But he remembered what he had read about embracing emotion like holding a crying baby, a teaching associated with Thich Nhat Hanh. Instead of reacting immediately, he breathed once. He noticed the pain. He did not deny it. The tone of the conversation shifted. This change was neither instant nor perfect. Many times he returned to automatism, lost patience, became distracted. But something had been inaugurated: perception. And perception is irreversible. Once you see the autopilot functioning, you can no longer pretend it does not exist. Miguel began applying the practice to simple gestures. Washing his hands, feeling the water. Listening to his daughter without looking at his phone. Walking to the car, noticing each step. Daily life stopped being an obstacle and became a training ground for consciousness. One night, sitting in silence after the house had fallen asleep, he realized something profound. Much of his exhaustion did not come from excessive tasks, but from constant resistance to each moment. He was at war with the now. And that war was invisible. By making peace with small instants, his energy began to change. He did not become less responsible. He did not abandon goals. But urgency lost its oppressive character. Time stopped being an enemy. He began acting with more focus and less anxiety. His relationship with his wife transformed not through grand declarations, but through real presence. Eye contact. Listening without interrupting. Breathing before responding. Small acts that rebuilt trust. Miguel realized that mindfulness was not a relaxation technique. It was a re-education of consciousness. He was not trying to become someone different. He was learning to be where he already was. Then came a particularly difficult day. A project failed. Expectations were frustrated. In the past, this would have triggered a spiral of self-criticism. This time, he sat in silence. He felt the pain in his chest. He breathed with it. He did not flee. He did not anesthetize himself with distraction. He cried briefly. And he remained. That night, he understood something no theory had taught him. Pain did not destroy him when it was embraced. Silence was not emptiness. It was space. And in that space, he was not separated from the world, he was deeply connected to it. Miguel's transformation was not spectacular in external eyes. But internally, there was a silent revolution. He stopped living as a bridge to the future and began inhabiting the present. He stopped fighting time and began walking with it. And perhaps the question that remains is not about Miguel. It is about you. How many times have you been absent from your own life today? How many conversations have you crossed without truly listening? How many simple moments have been treated as obstacles? Mindfulness does not require you to abandon anything. It invites you to return. Now, in this breath, if something here touched you, I want to make a very concrete invitation. Today, choose one inevitable moment of your day, brushing your teeth, walking to work, preparing coffee, and do only that. Completely present. Then come back here and write in the comments, "I was here." That simple sentence can be the beginning of a silent transformation. If this content resonated with you, share it with someone who lives running against time. And continue following the channel Philosophy and Psychology of Consciousness, because here we do not seek easy answers. We seek real awareness.